Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I get asked a lot of questions regarding core tackle and specifically how I go about making up some of the different bait concepts that we have. For me, it goes back a long period of time. I've always been a tackle tinkerer. I've been making a lot of my own jig heads for quite some time. And when I say some time, probably at this point, it's probably 25 years. I've got a lead pot out in the garage. I've got probably, I'm going to say 30 of these different do it molds, which if you're not familiar with these, just a simple insert your hook, put it under the lead pot, pour it, and you can make your jig heads that way. Real simple process. But it was kind of the thing that got me into making my own baits because when I recognized how easy that was, it was like, all right, what else can I make? So that kind of led to pouring my own jig heads, which then made me go out and buy a bunch of skirt material, start tying my own swim jigs and my own flipping jigs on heads that I had poured. Real basic stuff. Then started doing spinner baits, got into custom painting crankbaits with an airbrush, just pretty much done everything. The only thing I have not done is shoot plastic. I have never done that. So that's the one thing I feel like when it comes to bait making that I have not done. So much so to the point where I've got, if you can see that tall stand next to the door, that's all just different materials, whether that's uh, hair, feathers, skirt material, jigs, jig hooks, molds, like everything. I've got it pretty much at this point. I've got a pretty good selection of different stuff. And the question comes down to a lot of times, how do you go about making your own baits? Meaning, maybe you've got a great idea and you don't know how to bring it to fruition. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you guys because there are a bunch of different ways to do it. One, you can kind of take it upon yourself to try to figure it out. What I mean by that is maybe you've got an idea for an underspin, right? So you can take a jig head, you can take some different wire, you can try to figure out a way to configure it. Like this is just a hover rig that I've been screwing around with, putting some wire onto, and you try to develop a shape as good as you can get it so that you can actually fish with it. You can determine whether or not it works. At that point, what you can do is you can really go and try to actually get it finalized. You can go to a bunch of different companies out there, have them create a new mold for that bait. They can throw it into a CAD program, get the design about as perfect as possible. And at that point, if you wanted to have them made, and I'm not talking about specifically for production purposes to sell, but I'm talking about just for yourself, you can generally go and have companies do it. Now, it is not extremely cheap to do it that way. If you're going to have molds made, you're talking about several $100s to go down that route. But if you want a complete finished product, that's a great way to do it. But it's interesting to me, like how much I'm learning as I go along the way in terms of producing different items. I've got several different products at this point that require a lot of different custom work. So we're having some custom hooks made through VMC. Those are going to be here any day now, actually February 8th. So they're probably here by the time this video aired. So I've gone down the process of having hooks made, a lot simpler than I ever would have thought. Um, you know, the we're having specific components made, wire components, by a company here in my hometown of Stevens Point called Worth Company, who is one of the biggest tackle component suppliers like in the country when it comes to different blades, different little spring forms, different wire pieces, split rings, swivels. They're one of the few companies that makes those items in the US. So it's really handy for me to have them a few minutes from my house because I am utilizing them to make uh, some specific wire pieces for a new wacky hook that we've got coming out. And it's really not that hard though. I mean, you can take in that case, it was a matter of meeting with them. I said, this is what I want. This is what I have. Basically, take this, do a couple of things to it. And they're able to draw it up real well in a lot of their different programs so that you get a really good idea as to what those pieces are. But you can go to companies like Worth Company and have them make spinner blades for you. You can have them make different types of components And I think a lot of times we don't recognize, one, how easy it is to do it, and two, how it can be cost effective as well. Now, generally speaking, they're not going to do a production run of just 10 pieces, and you do need to order a minimum quantity of something. But a lot of times, even those quantities are not extremely expensive because you're talking about something that costs, a few cents each to make. So maybe you got to order 1,000 pieces of them, but if it costs you a few cents each to make those 1,000 pieces is not actually that expensive when you work it up. But what you can do is you can go to these companies, you say, these are the ideas I have, and they have all the designers and everything that you need to really help you push those ideas along. And that's one thing that Johnny and I have found to be very, very easy within the fishing industry. Everyone, first off, what we're doing is generally not that complicated, right? You're talking about molds for jig heads. You're talking about wire pieces for, different wire frame type items. And from that standpoint, it's not like we're doing electrical engineering or, work with any sort of crazy just science, right? I mean, we're talking about pretty basic stuff. So from that standpoint, everything that their designers are capable of will meet any of the needs that you have. Um, but I just want to encourage everyone that if you've got ideas and you have a little bit of a knack when it comes to tinkering, you probably can make them uh, really come to fruition. One thing that I found within the fishing industry is I feel like there's not a whole lot of advancement in different types of products and baits. If you look at a lot of the stuff that's being made now, it's in some form or fashion very similar to something that was made 50 years ago. And I also recognize that it's hard to create new objects that need to have a hook, need to connect to a fishing line, and be brought back to you. There's only so much that you can do. But I do think, based on talking with a lot of people on my travels, that there are a lot of good ideas out there. There are a lot of anglers that come up with neat little changes and nuances to existing products that really are good. So if you've got a good idea, I say go for it. There's nothing wrong with trying to put a little time into developing a new product. And the reality is, if you catch a fish on a bait you made, it's pretty rewarding. Feels really good. So from that standpoint, I say give it a shot. If you have questions regarding bait making, you can throw them up in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer them. But honestly, there's a lot of really good sources out there. Just like if you want to build rods, you go to mudhole.com. If you want to make baits, a lot of times you can go to companies like Do It, and they will walk you through all the questions that you have. And YouTube will really show you how to build a bunch of baits too if you're looking for that. So, anyways, I thought I would put this out there. Hopefully, it helps answer some of the questions regarding how to go ahead and kind of start making your own baits. Uh, yeah, but anyways, give it a try. It's a fun thing to do, and it's pretty rewarding at the same time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.